Hey guys, I know it's been a long time since I've posted a video. A lot has happened since the last time I posted a video. I've finished grad school, I got a job, started working that, and I got married. So lots of stuff has happened, and any free time I had, I was working on my steam engine build on my second channel. Click one of the cards on the right and put a card up and a link in the description for the second channel where I do metal casting and machining. Anyway, the car stuff has kind of fallen back behind, but we got a job today. We are working on a 2002 Mercury Sable, and the complaint is that there is no power on hills, or less power on hills. So she brought it to me once, and there were codes for a cylinders 3 and 4 misfire, and there was both banks were too lean. So immediately I thought to myself, okay, well, it makes sense that you would have some misfires here and there if you have a large vacuum leak to the extent that both banks are lean. So I knew the vacuum leak had to be somewhere in the intake because both banks were lean. After looking, I saw that a hose was disconnected. It broke out of the little, it was like a hose that went into an elbow, and it came out of the elbow. So I was able to put it back in, hose clamp it on. That code's gone. A couple days later, she says that it's still, the check engine light came back on, and there's still something weird going on. So I scanned it, and lo and behold, the cylinders 3 and 4 were still misfiring. So let me go over the way I diagnosed this, and then we'll get into the repair. Alright, so the fact that this condition happens under load, namely going up hills, points me initially into the ignition, because that typically happens for ignition systems. The codes are specific to cylinders 3 and 4, and the way this works is you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. First thing I checked was spark plugs. They look okay, and then the next thing I did was what's the condition of these connections right here. Now there is a little bit of oil in each well because of the leaking seals, but I don't think that's the problem because it's in at least these three, all three of them, and the condition is this one and that one. So then I noticed that both these got, this one, cylinder number 4, and cylinder number 3 in the back share the same coil. It looks like, at least that's what it looks like. In the back, there's a module that has all 6 outputs for coils on them, and they're kind of paired in 2. So leads me to believe that each pair is one coil, right, for 2 cylinders. So 3 and 4 on both that coil, and that's really it for the ignition system. It's pretty simple, but so you can't just replace the coil because it's a whole module. It comes with all 6 coils pretty much, or all 6 outputs from coils, and an electronic component. So today we're going to be replacing that, and since we're going to be taking the intake off, we're also going to be doing the spark plugs and wires, and then we're going to see how that works. Alright, so we're going to start over here and remove this whole, the intake and the whole snorkel throttle body assembly are kind of tied together. So let's start with the air box and just remove that, or at least disconnect it. There we go. And then we have some vacuum lines here, so we're going to disconnect. There's that one. actually, I think I'm just going to take this whole snorkel assembly off. I think it'll be easier. Just a flat head right here. Oh, and we got the mass airflow sensor connected on the bottom. And there's that. Okay, we got some electrical connectors here. This looks like the idle air control valve. This looks like the TPS sensor right here. And I think that might be it, at least for now. So I think we can leave all the cables attached. I think the whole thing would just come to the side. So over here on the left side, we have a connector that goes right there. And we're just looking for anything that's connected to the intake that's going to impede us removing it. Looks like there's another connector underneath, or vacuum lines. Yep, there we go. Alright, so on the right side of the intake we have the EGR valve, and we need to remove that because that's connected to the exhaust as well. And it'll impede removing the intake. Now these look like 10s, and they are. Let's just loosen all four. Take off this vacuum line. It's a pretty cool ratchet. It's a 1/4 inch, but it articulates, and it also, you can change the length of it by pulling down that collar. This is actually my first time using it. I got it at a flea market. Okay, and there's that. And we just removed the gasket, and we can replace that. That only costs $1. Alright, so it looks like there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bolts to get this thing free. At least naively. And they look like 8mm. Let me see. Yeah, 8. So there's a big ass vacuum line on the bottom of this, but there's really no need to remove it because all we need to do is move this out of the way. And that vacuum line I was mentioning is this guy right here. There's like this double red line. This one had a hose clamp around it, because I guess this must be a common problem with this car, because this one right here, that's the one I had to do because it was leaking. And there was a hose clamp on this one just like that, but it fell into the abyss, so I have to find that later. Can't forget about that. Okay, let's remove the spark plug. This is a simple part. Sorry, let's get this straight here. So we got to keep this straight. The middle one here is going to the middle one here. The right one here is going to the left one, and the left one is going to the right. So that's pretty easy to remember. So let's do that. So let's remove the middle one, which goes to the middle, and I'm just double checking as I'm removing. That's the middle one, and then we have the right one, which is attached to the left side on this coil module, whatever you want to call it, and then the left one, which is attached to the right one. Okay, so we'll take these off too. I'm documenting this on video, but I'll also make notes so I can remember. We have the electrical connector. Take that off. Now let's get these spark plugs out. Alright. See the oil? How's that? See that? Oh man, I can hear the comments now. Matt, you didn't cover up those intake ports. I'm doing it. God. Just don't forget to take those out. I got 3 more, but I'm not going to show that. Alright, now we got the front 3, which are easy, so let's try to see what's going on here. This left one goes, let's follow this, it goes to the left side of the coil. This right one goes to the middle coil, and this middle one, let me just double check, goes to the right one. Okay, I don't know if I said it like this, but imagine the squares. Imagine we're looking at the engine standing in front of it like we are right now. These 3 squares are the 3 front spark plug holes, and these 3 squares are the 3 rear ones, and then these 6 circles are the 6 coil plug ports back there. So this is how it's arranged. So we're going to put it back like that. So I'm going to take these front 3 off in fast motion. Oil. Whew. Let's take these guys off. Alright, I'll try not to get in your way. It's going to be hard. Here's the coil module, I'm going to call it. And these are T25s. We have, I think 3. 1, 2, and then there's one in the back in the middle. So let's do this back one first. It's holding this little wire clip. Not in there very tight. And then this is why you want to cover those intake holes in case I drop this screw. Really the spark plug holes too, but I'm taking my chances. And we got this one over here. There it is. So you can see that everything is kind of just one unit. Here's the potted electronics on the bottom. And this isn't very expensive. The most expensive one from Rock Auto was only $50. So I got that one. And it's just a little surprising. So when I was looking at it in the back, cylinders 3 and 4 were attached to these 2. Let me just verify that. Yes. Make sure I'm correct. If you look at this, cylinder 3, which goes 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6. 3 and 4 were connected to these 2. And I'm assuming there's 3 coils. So this is probably our culprit. Alright, so let's see. What do we got? We got... well, you take this thing off. It holds the wires. And this thing over here that holds wires, this also just pulls right up and off. We have one, two, hold on. This guy also holds wires on. And so there's this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bolts. And I think they are 8 millimeters. Let's just, yep. Take that cover off. I think these are 10s. Alright, let's there it goes. Alright. There we go. So the gasket fell out. Here it is. But these guys are the culprits here. So we're just gonna order a new one. Alright, so that's that. Now let's get the back one. So I realized I could just go to Advanced Auto and pick up this seal kit now. So I removed the gasket and I'm just gonna gently, this previous mechanic put some RTV here at the joints between the top cylinder head and the side housings. So we're just going to gently scrape that away with this razor blade on a stick. Alright, so I've scraped that RTV and we're just going to put just a dollop of our own on these, I'm just going to use my finger on these spots right here. Alright, so I've already placed the new gasket and the O-rings, or the sealing rings, whatever you want to call them. So we're going to flip this over. We're going to hope nothing falls out. So I tighten valve cover by hand, and I start from the middle. Well, first let's just run everything down so it gets snug. And we're doing everything in a spiral pattern-ish. Okay, so we're just gonna get it snug just like that. We're gonna do it very consistent pressure. I don't have a lot of leverage. I'm turning hard. Alright, and then we're just going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Double check these again. Okay, so that side is done. That was the easy side. The hard side is going to be the back one because it's kind of pushed back there. Alright, I didn't show it because it was a pain in the ass to record. And actually we have another one. Alright, first, before I tell you what I just did, let me do something else. And that is, let's pull you up here. There is a vacuum line attached right there to this little manifold. And that's attached to the intake. I need to move the intake now since I'm taking the back valve cover gasket off. So we gotta take this out. There it is. Alright, so that was that one. And then on the bottom here, can you see that hole right there? Let's flip this up out of the way. That was attached, this guy here was attached to it, and there's just a little spring clamp to get that off. So now you can actually flip this over and the bolts don't come out, thank God. But you can see when I get them, I ordered them, they're not in yet, we can replace these seals right here, because we took the intake off, and you should replace the seals when you put it back on, because if you don't, you can get a leak. Alright, let's move to that back valve cover gasket.